Today we're at John Marshall Middle School, where we just had the opportunity to address the faculty and staff. I think everyone in the room is well aware that we've had a rocky start to the school year in many respects, balanced with some awesome things that are going on in this school. We have great teachers and support staff. We have fantastic kids and families. But we have, without question, had a tough, challenging start to the year. So our purpose for being here today was to do a number of things, to encourage our faculty and staff, to talk to them about solutions, and to talk about a path moving forward beginning on Tuesday when we return from Labor Day. So we've really, the message was boiled down into three parts that I want to share with you. One, to certainly acknowledge that we are aware at the district level that we need to take some steps to smooth things out at this school. Secondly, to take responsibility as a superintendent, as a staff, as a district. Part of our responsibility is to provide the support necessary to give every school the resources needed to be successful, and we did not do that adequately at this school. And so our commitment is that we're going to do a better job. We're going to provide resources. We're going to provide the support needed. A second apology that I would offer is in a recent press release, I made a comment about a teacher who had intervened in a fight, heroically trying to take care of kids. And I referenced it as a minor injury, and it was unacceptable. She is okay, but that minimized what actually happened in the hallway, and for that I do apologize. So there are three things we want to talk about moving forward. Number one is we have incredible community partners. We know that in Oklahoma City, and it is no different in this particular part of town. And for the last week, maybe week and a half, we have received a number of calls, literally dozens of calls from community members who have said, hey, we see what's going on over there. Is there anything we can do to help? And so we've enlisted some help. So beginning on Tuesday, the kids, the faculty, moms and dads and grandparents will see additional layers of support from volunteers. A couple of examples would be a graduate some time ago of John Marshall High School who has gone on to be very successful as a businessman and also a university professor by the name of Jimmy Lawson, has a group that he calls the Impact Team. And it's a group of other very caring, interested people, many of whom are graduates of John Marshall. And their focus is on uplifting and encouraging and supporting kids and teachers. And so their role might be welcoming kids and parents and buses and teachers to school. It might be sitting down and having lunch with kids during their lunchtime, things like that. A second group that has provided unbelievable support in this district for years is the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity in Oklahoma City. One of the largest chapters in the country. They currently are already working in a number of our schools, and they want to provide support in much the same way. So encouragement, role modeling, mentoring. In no way is this volunteerism an attempt or a message that we want to send that they're going to take over the classroom or they're going to save the day. They simply have volunteered to be supportive of our path forward, and we welcome that support. So those are a couple of examples, and that's one action step we will take. Additionally, we will be much more visible as a district, from the instructional leadership director position to assistant superintendents, deputy superintendents, myself. We will add another layer of security. Oklahoma City PD, we have a rover in our district who moves around the district, and we will position him at John Marshall Middle School for a period of time that we think would be sufficient. So more hands on deck, that's number one. Number two is the administration in this building with support from the district, has been working on a reboot and relaunch of the master schedule. So that will occur beginning on Tuesday when we return. And so what you'll see, what families will see, kids will see, teachers will see, is a reduction and balancing of class sizes. Right now, in many of our classes, we have too many kids, which makes teaching very difficult. It becomes an exercise in management, managing behaviors, etc. It also allows us, through the restructuring of the master schedule, to be very thoughtful about where kids are at different grade levels at different times during the day. One of our commitments has been that we limit the engagement, interaction, lunchtime, passing periods of the different grade levels. 8th graders walking the same halls at the same time as a 5th grader, as an example. So the master schedule will address those types of logistical things as well. And we're really excited about that piece. And the third piece, and trust me when I say there are many other pieces, but these are kind of the big three, is we have made a leadership change at John Marshall Middle School and introduced Michael Harris, who is a longtime administrator, seasoned, most recently an assistant principal at Douglas High School, beginning tomorrow, will take over the reins as the principal of this building. And I want to be real clear about this. Our interest is moving forward. If I were to begin assigning blame for how we got where we are, I would begin right here. We should have, could have done a better job preparing, but I'm most concerned about moving forward. Marcus Macias, principal here, has done a fantastic job, heavy lifting to get us where we could start the school year. Just a reminder that we're bringing kids from lots of different parts of the northwest part of the city into this school who have not gone to school together before. And so for Marcus and his staff and his team to get us off the ground, we're very grateful. Beginning tomorrow, Michael Harris will assume the responsibilities of building principal. Additionally, we're bringing in another seasoned administrator in our district by the name of Chris Gardner. Thank you. I was going to say Gander. Chris Gardner. As we considered our options for leadership in this building, we had several directions we could have gone, but what kept coming to the forefront with these two gentlemen is their ability to develop relationships with kids, with teachers, and with community. And we believe that is a critical ingredient as we move forward. So we're really thrilled, pleased to be able to introduce those two gentlemen as two of our leaders moving forward. We believe very strongly in our faculty and staff here. We love our kids, and we believe they need and deserve more support from us, and that's what we're going to bring. Jason, I would turn it over to you for any comments that you'd like to add.
I think I'll just add some of the supports that you mentioned and try to emphasize the importance of having an adequate schedule in place. Those of you that are present here, you walked to this particular building through the campus. It's a unique campus. It's spread out into 9 different buildings. And so when you have middle school students in 9 different buildings, that takes a different type of supervision structure. It takes a different type of schedule. We think moving forward, the schedule that we will implement will help emphasize an appropriate educational environment for our 5th through 8th graders. And so the schedule is a huge part of some of the changes, as well as just some implementation of school-wide expectations, both in the hallway, in the cafeteria, before school, after school, just some structural and procedural things that can be put in place that allows kids to enjoy their time at school and allows teachers to educate and to facilitate learning for our students. And so there are a couple things that we've put in place moving forward in addition to the items named by Dr. McDaniel. We've reached out, though we've had a lot of individuals reach out. We've also reached out to a number of resources that we have, things that we would probably that would happen anyway, but we'll expedite. So for example, some intervention specialists who could work with our administrative team and our teachers on appropriate expectations in the hallway and how you facilitate that in a successful manner. We have an new office of equity, and our executive director, Dr. Marcia Aaron, has a litany of ideas, and she's brand new to the district and she's anxious to get started. That's professional development that would have happened with our teachers and administrators anyway. It would have happened at some point during this year. What we'll do is we'll look at an expedited schedule and time period for that to happen with our teachers and administrators here. There are some wonderful teachers here at John Marshall Middle School. They are excited, they love their kids, and they're looking forward to having a successful year. I will double down on what Dr. McDaniel said. As educators, we can't afford to lose. In every other aspect, if you're a corporation, heck, if you're a Major League Baseball player making millions of dollars, batting 500 sounds really good. When you're not perfect in school, you could have a 99% graduation rate. You know what that means to an educator? That means that 1% of the kids didn't graduate. And that means that we failed those kids. And so the other metrics of success by other corporations, by other entities, by other individuals, by other citizens are not our metrics of success. For every time that we have a lapse, there's a kid that didn't have the best educational experience. And so for us, we take that extremely seriously. And we want to do a better job for the kids and staff at John Marshall Middle School.
Take a few questions, you guys. Why is 5th through 8th grade, correct?
5th through 8th grade.
About how many students are there in this middle school?
About 900.
900.
Little over 900, right at hovering a little bit up the 900 mark.
Okay, and how many schools consolidated to this school? Do you know that?
If you add the elementary schools who move from 4th to 5th, and then also due to the closure of Centennial, I believe the number is 5 schools where kids went to different schools last year and now come together into a single school.
What was the number of students here last year?
Last year, this was, if you recall, this is one of the elementaries we converted to a middle school, so this was Greystone Elementary. Probably, I'm ballparking, probably in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 kids.
Maybe
So bigger than that?
Maybe a little bigger than that.
Okay.
Maybe a little bigger than that next year, maybe 700 kids.
Okay.
Not as many as this year. There's been more here previously, but for Greystone Upper Elementary, I believe around 700.
At the beginning of this school year, I know you're talking about rescheduling. Do we have a number on approximately how many students are in each classroom right now and how this rescheduling can help lower that?
I can give an example of an adequate schedule that would help facilitate that. So based on a regular middle school schedule, you would obviously want 26, 27 kids, no more than that in a classroom. If your schedule is not adequate, you may have some teachers with really low numbers individually. And other teachers with really high numbers, over 30, over 35. So if you look at the average, then the average still comes out, number of teachers and number of students, to 26, 27, 28. But that does not help the teacher that has 30, 35 kids in their class, 40 kids in their elective class waiting to move to a different schedule. And so that's just unacceptable for an adequate learning environment. And so the goal is to, with the new schedule, to balance those classes and to make sure that kids have a productive learning environment based on that averaged schedule. And we think they'll enjoy the electives more. They'll get more done in the course, and teachers overall will enjoy the experience.
Michael Harris is going to be the new principal coming in from Douglas,
Yes, sir.
right?
Michael Harris.
And then you mentioned Chris Gardner as being on the leadership team. What's his title? What?
He'll be an assistant principal.
Okay.
Yes.
Marcus Macias, where's he at then? Is he still with the school?
He is. Marcus is still employed by the school. We are continuing conversations internally about next steps and where we can use his talents and skill set to best impact our kids. So that's kind of a work in progress.
What was his last responsibility before starting here this year at John Marshall Middle School?
You're talking about Mr. Macias?
Yep.
Elementary school, somebody help me with that.
Rancho Village.
Rancho Village, thank you.
Elementary principal.
Elementary principal, yes.
If you're adding one more police officer, do you think that'll be enough extra security?
We do believe that. We think with structural changes and more supervision by the adults that are already in the building, that's going to solve a lot of our problems. So currently, and you can probably speak better to this, we have a security team that's a part of our school district. And then we also have a contract with the Oakland City Police Department for school resource officers. So our total, we have 2 of each, 2 security and 2 police officers in our school at all times every day. So we think that that will be adequate in combination with some of the changes that we're going to make.
You know, I've talked to some parents just before we came in here just to get a better idea, and they, are talking about the overcrowding. They say maybe that's what's leading up to these fights in the hallways and cafeterias. I mean, you're talking about training with teachers and so forth, but do you think that could be the reason behind it, or do you think it's because it's the beginning of the year, kids are just kind of excited, riled up?
Go ahead.
It's important to capture the overcrowding in its context. So when we talk about a new schedule, here's an example of a classic middle school schedule that I've been accustomed to working under and will be implemented here because it's what a lot of middle schools use. So you'll have 8th graders that will start the day in their electives. And the electives are on one side of the building. And so they will just travel during first and second hour among those few classes or among those electives. With a 9-building campus, they will not have to travel during first and second hour over to the other side of campus. When it's time to travel to the other side of campus, they'll move one time between classes, and then they'll be over there the rest of the day in their core classes. So when you, in a schedule that's not built like that, and what you get is you get between classes, you get 8th graders trying to go one way, 7th graders trying to go one way, 6th graders trying to go one way. So they're all trying to use the same hallway to go different directions and to get to their class. That doesn't necessarily mean an overcrowded school. That means an extremely overcrowded hallway and a schedule that needs to be revamped. And so with the new schedule, those hallways will look quite a bit different because there will only be 1 grade passing in that particular hallway during the passing periods. And so, yes, it could look extremely overcrowded if you have all the students trying to walk the same way at the same time. So I do think there's a little difference between an overcrowded hallway and an overcrowded school. So with this facility, it holds very easily 900 students, but it needs to be the appropriate schedule for the grade level.
So five kids coming in from 5 different schools means coming in from 5 different school cultures. What was done this summer to try to begin to form a John Marshall Middle School culture here?
So a couple of responses, and then Jason, feel free to jump in. Remember that when middle school begins, we bring kids from 2, 3, sometimes 4 elementaries into a middle school, so that's not unusual. I think what was different about this feeder pattern, kids moving into a single school, is that we moved the Centennial kids, when we closed their building, over to John Marshall. That was kind of a wild card. Second part of your question, or second question, Brett, was what did we do? We took several steps as a district. In the spring, you may remember that we had a Saturday where we opened up all of our campuses and had open house, so that kids who attended school A last year but got moved, they could come and check out the cafeteria and the school and meet teachers and the principals. So we did events like that. Then we handed off to the principals, and they did another series of events where they would have the formation of a PTA, for example, where they would invite parents in and kind of chart the course for the year. So 2 or 3 different things that occurred from both the district and the school level to try and acclimate. And full disclosure from me, coulda, shoulda, woulda, I wish we would have done more, for sure. And we're addressing those things right now.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
Who is responsible for the school climate in any particular schools?
Great question. You might have varied opinions on that. I think the head principal of a school building is a primary holder of climate and culture. There's an old saying that we use in the educational world that when the principal sneezes, everybody in the building catches a cold. And we believe that, and we trust our building leaders to develop that. And again, that has a lot to do with building relationships. And so everybody has a role to play. Everybody plays a significant part of culture, but that head principal is that leader of that building and can very quickly set a very positive tone.
Hey, Sean.
Yes, ma'am.
It appears that the schedule had a lot to do with maybe what went wrong in this situation, but why did you all find it to be necessary to also install a new principal at the school? How did that factor into the decision?
Well, that's a great question. For me, it's about resetting and moving forward. What happened, what didn't happen, while important and we need to learn from it, we are where we are. And so many times as I begin moving forward, we need new vision, new voice, new leadership. And I want to stop short of saying that this is Marcus's fault or this is the faculty or whatever. This has everything to do with today and moving forward. Marcus is a very talented administrator. But my opinion and my direction has been that as we reset, we need to reset. And in this case, at this time, that means we need a new voice and we need new leadership moving forward. And we are grateful for what Marcus has brought to the table, and we fully expect to leverage his talents moving forward. But we needed a reset here at this time.
Right, and what did Mr. Harris bring to the position that you think would be most appropriate for the school?
He's got secondary experience, a wealth of secondary experience. He's seasoned. He has been described by everybody we've come in contact with and those who know him and worked for him and with him that he is a relationship builder first and foremost. And we know in most businesses and families, if you don't get that right immediately, if you can't build that relationship immediately, all the other things that come after will meet with levels of success. So we need relationship builders, and he brings that to the table. He has demonstrated that. He is also articulate, very intelligent. He knows the school business, and we feel very confident in his ability to lead.
Dr. McDaniel,
Great set of questions.
Can you tell us the teacher who was injured, is she back on duty? Is she teaching back in the classroom?
You know, we've got to stay away from that. I mean, let me reiterate what I said earlier. This is one of those, wish I had a do-over. I wish I could take back my comment about minor. She was the first one in the fray when that particular fight broke out, and her only mission was to get kids out of harm's way. And I think she is recovering, whether it's here or there. I'm not certain. I don't know that she's back on duty.